What if everything we thought about the Catskills was wrong? I came here expecting mountains, the kind shaped by tectonic forces like their neighbors in the Appalachians. But what I found wasn't that.
These peaks that you see behind me, steep, wild, dramatic, well, they aren't technically mountains in the ways we usually define them. No, I'm not talking about their size. I'm actually talking about the ways they were formed.
The Appalachians rose from colliding continents over 1 billion years ago. The Catskills, well, their story begins just around 350 million years ago, and it's completely different.
So, what are these hills that look like mountains? And what shaped them? Was it rivers, glaciers, time itself?
These aren't just questions, they're echoes. And somewhere between the ridgelines and riverbeds, I started to feel like the Catskills weren't waiting to be explained. They were waiting to be felt. So, unlike the towering peaks of true mountains, the Catskills weren't pushed skyward by colliding tectonic plates. They were carved, not by violence, but by patience. Rivers flowed through a massive delta system fed by the erosion of ancient mountains further east. These rivers carried sediment, sand, silt, clay, laying it down layer after layer across a wide, flat basin. Over millions of years, these deposits compressed and hardened into rock. But this wasn't the rise of a mountain range. It was a quiet construction of a plateau. What we now call the Catskills began not as peaks, but as a part of a flat-topped table of stone, raised slightly by geological uplift, and known today as a dissected plateau. That term, dissected plateau, well, that explains the illusion.
These hills that you see behind me, they look like mountains, and they feel like mountains. But in truth, they are remnants of a once flat surface cut away by millions of years of erosion.
Then came the next ice age. Roughly 20,000 years ago, glaciers up to a mile thick swept across the region like slow, grinding giants. They scraped away the surface, deepened valleys, and left behind steep slopes and dramatic ridgelines. When the ice finally retreated, it dropped everything it had carried. Massive boulders known as glacial erratics, rich mineral soils, and pools of meltwater that would become rivers and lakes. This glacial erosion sculpted the rugged topography we now associate with the Catskills. The deep hollows, sharp escarpments, and narrow notches that slice through the stone.
Sorry, I know I'm a little dark here, but off there in the distance you can see Panther Mountain. It's a circular ridge and it was formed differently than the Catskills in which it neighbors. Now it's still in the Catskills, but what do I mean by when I say it was formed differently?
Some geologists believe this formation sits at the site of an ancient meteor impact, a crater nearly 10 kilometers wide, buried beneath layers of sediment and reshaped by time. Rivers, glaciers, and even a falling star. This landscape wasn't raised, it was revealed. While nature shaped the bones of this place, it was people who gave it purpose, and sometimes took too much.
Long before axes felled massive trees and rail lines traced all the valleys, these mountains told stories that were whispered by the winds and carried by the waters.
The Lenape, Mohican, and Esopus people walked these ridgelines. They hunted in its forest, fished in its rivers, and gathered medicines from its slopes. To them, this land wasn't a resource, it was kin. Sacred places dotted the hillsides, seasons guided movement, the rhythm of life pulsed through the forest, stream, and sky.
But the relationship to the land was about to change. Where once the forest was seen as family, it soon became a commodity. The same hills that offered shelter and sustenance were now eyed for timber, bark, and profit.
Here, the forests of the Catskills once echoed with the rhythmic strikes of axes. In the 1800s, this region became a booming center for the lumber industry. Its dense stands of hemlock and hardwood, a resource too rich to ignore. Towering trees fell one by one, destined for construction, fuel, and tanning. Thick with tannin, hemlock bark was especially prized, which was an essential ingredient in turning animal hides into leather. By the mid-19th century, lumber camps sprawled across the hillsides. Crews of men labored from dawn until dark, felling giants and dragging them towards rivers like the Esposus and Delaware, where spring floods would carry them to waiting mills downstream. But industry moved faster than forest can recover. By the time the logs stopped flowing, the scars were already deep. Hills, stripped bare by overharvesting, became vulnerable to erosion. Where trees once held water and shade, dry branches and human carelessness sparked fire after fire, burning entire ridgelines into ash. As the timber thinned, industry adapted. Paper mills rose, turning pulp into profit. Yet, even that couldn't last forever. Then came a different kind of arrival. By the late 1800s, with industry waning, a new economy emerged. City dwellers, suffocated by smoke and steel, found solace in the mountains. Trains brought them north to the air that smelled of pine and mountain rain. Grand hotels, sprawling resorts, and family-run lodges appeared seamlessly overnight, ushering in a golden age of escape. In 1885, the state stepped in. Alarmed by deforestation and pollution of the very waters that fed New York City, the New York State legislature created the Catskills and Adirondack Forest Preserves. The law was bold, declaring that these wildlands would be forever kept as wild forest lands. It marked one of the first large-scale conservation efforts in the country, and with it, a promise was made that the same mountains that was once mined for their worth would now be protected for their wonder. Today, the Catskills thrive as a destination for nature lovers, adventurers, and those seeking tranquility. The region boasts 36 high peaks, some rising above 3,500 feet, offering countless opportunities for hiking and exploration. Trails like the Devil's Path and Escarpment Trail challenge even the most seasoned of hikers, while gentler paths lead to stunning waterfalls, serene lakes, and lush forests.
For me, it's the combination of hiking, nature, and landscape photography that draws me to places like the Catskills. There's just something magical about wandering these trails, camera in hand, capturing the essence of places like this that seem just untouched by time.
Photography has really helped me explore new creative possibilities. From wide, sweeping views of mountains to intimate details like wildflowers swaying in the breeze. It's truly something I've always really appreciated about this art form. One of the most iconic features of the Catskills is a network of fire towers. Structures like the Balsam Lake Mountain and Hunter Mountain Towers were originally built in the 20th century to detect and monitor forest fires. Today, they've been restored and repurposed for tourism. Climbing them rewards visitors with panoramic views of the surrounding landscape, stretching as far as the Hudson Valley and beyond. As industry declined, the Catskills found new life as a place of cultural and recreational significance. The Woodstock Festival of 1969, though technically held in nearby Bethel, cemented the region's reputation as a cultural hub. The festival drew hundreds of thousands of people and became a lasting symbol of peace, love, and counterculture. Today, that spirit lives on through the area's vibrant art scenes, music festivals, and creative communities.
Yet, no matter how much we measure, name, and map this place, the Catskills resist being reduced to fact. They've always belonged to stories, to the echoes of the people who saw spirits in the fog and the legends in the light between the trees.
The Catskills are also steeped in folklore, layered not just in rock, but in tale. Perhaps the most enduring is Washington's Irving's Rip Van Winkle, which was first published in 1819. In it, a wary man escapes into the mountains, meets ghostly figures in revolutionary garb, and awakes 2 decades later to change the world. The Catskills don't fit the textbook, and that's kind of the point. Their power isn't in towering peaks or ancient bones, it's in the breath of forests, the hush between river and ridge. They hold the weight of stories whispered for centuries, etched not just by stone, but in the silence that surrounds you. You feel it here, the slow pulse of time, the pull of memory, the shape of a land still righting itself. Not as old as the Appalachians, but alive, wild, restless poems in stone and sky, carved by water, wind, and the stories we carry.